Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I am the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and I want to welcome you back to another edition of your Adrenal Fix Facebook Lifestyle. So today we're going to be talking about how to wake up feeling recharged without spending more money on supplements and doctors, even if you feel like you've tried everything and nothing works. Really great title, right? So lots of things here. Recharging your batteries, waking up feeling energized, waking up feeling like it's not Groundhog Day, waking up not feeling like you need another 12 hours of sleep, waking up like you don't feel like a Mack truck has hit you head on. That's a big part of it. Making feel like you have endless amounts of energy throughout the day. Not having to take more supplements over and over and over again. And not really knowing which ones work, which ones don't work, or not really knowing what your next step is, not going to different doctors and having another test after another test after another test, or being told that there's nothing wrong with you, or that you're crazy, or that you're not being believed, or that you need to be on medication, or you need to be on antidepressants, or you need to be, like someone I've talked to says you just need to do, a haircut and you'll feel better. I mean, seriously, are you really telling me that there's nothing wrong with me and that I'm making this up and I really just want the attention of being exhausted all day? I really want to spend more money. I want to go to more doctors? No. I understand that that's what you're feeling with and that's what you're dealing with. And so today I want to talk to you about all that. I want to make these interactive. So if you have any questions, make sure you post them here so I can see that. I also want to make sure that you get a lot of information out of this. So make sure you have a pen and pencil and a piece of paper so that you can take down some of these notes, because I can guarantee to you that there's a lot of things that you haven't tried that you think you have tried. I talk to you guys every single day with sort of your arms crossed, and I've tried everything, and there's nothing that you can do that is going to be different to me. And sure enough, we get into talking and we find out that you have tried a lot of things, that you're a really smart cookie, that you're researching this, that you forgot that you're not a doctor, or maybe you are a doctor, but you forgot that your life still goes on outside doors and not on a computer where you need to be spending all your time researching, finding out, going to another summit, trying to know what's going on with yourself because no one believes you. That's what these are for. And I want to give you a lot of information out of this. So we're going to go over 6 main things, and they kind of all have to do with stress, the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenal axis, and being in overwhelm. Digestion will impact the HPA axis in your overwhelm. Having blood sugar imbalances will impact that and your overwhelm, and vice versa. There's two-way roads here. Your immune system and the role of chronic infection, that will impact that. Neurotoxicity, being in overwhelm, not being in fight or flight, not being able to relax, having panic and having anxiety, and having ineffective neurotransmitters that's over bombarding the cell is going to impact you. And also circadian biochemistry. So that's what I want to talk to you guys about. So first thing I want to talk to you is about myths. The myths that we see in adrenal fatigue is, firstly, there is no such thing as adrenal fatigue, or that all you need to do is take adrenal fatigue supplements, glandulars and adaptogens, or if your blood sugar is not balanced, you need to eat small meals more frequently. Those are all BS. Those are usually the opposite of what you really need to be doing. And I want to talk to you about those myths. And then I want to talk to you about why we are different. The reason I'm different is because we look outside the box. And I'm trying to connect a lot of puzzle pieces together for you guys so that you can go, oh, I never thought of that. Or, yeah, that makes sense to me. Or, oh, I can see why this, that, or the other. I really want you to start seeing these connections. And then lastly, what I really stand for is the fact that I really want to lower your stress footprint. That's a term that I have patented. And just like the ecological, footprint, I think your stress footprint needs to be minimal. Less supplements, less activities in terms of deadlines, less windows open on the computer, metaphorically and literally, and really just doing more specific targeted things that are going to have the more bang for your buck, meaning 2% of what you should be doing differently should be having 98% of the results. You should be so close yet so far. And that's what I really want to help you with. So let's talk about the stress and the HPA axis. So most of you guys understand that already. You understand that your brain processes stress, and then that causes your stress response, which is typically going to be adrenaline and or cortisol and or mineral corticoids. And what that's going to do is that's going to try to do three main things. It's going to try to regulate your inflammation. It's going to try to regulate your fluid balance, and it's going to try to regulate your blood sugar. Those main three things: inflammation, fluid, and blood sugar. So what are things that we need those things for? Well, if I have a stressor and I need instant energy, then that's going to be a need for my stress response system. If I'm dehydrated or I need to maintain my mineral concentration, that's going to put a stress on me. If my blood sugar falls too low, that's going to put a stress on me. So those are the main things. But here are some of the things that you're not doing that I find when I talk to you guys that are keeping you in overwhelm and not allowing you to sleep. So where is your cell phone before you go to bed? I know this is a small little point, but it's probably 2 feet from your head. It's plugged into a charger, and it's not on Wi-Fi. And that cell tower is bouncing back and forth, and that is EMF, static electricity and electromagnetic fields that are impacting you. And you're looking at, well, I need another sleep agent. I need more melatonin. Meanwhile, your phone is 2 feet from your head, or you have a clock radio that's 2 feet from your head, or it's at the end of the bed, or you have a Wi-Fi router that's in your room. Think about all those things, even if it's adjacent to you. I know that I'm getting a little bit weird on you, but these are the things that you're going to have to make changes with. Those are things that I'm talking to people and I'm working with them, and they have this problem. You can't do that. That's a really important thing. Also, deadlines and saying yes to too many things that you should be saying no to, or having to balance and not asking people for help and getting support with a family member or a loved one or a coworker or a child or a parent. Asking for help and taking away some of your responsibilities, even if someone is not doing something as good as you are, and they're 80%, 70%, or 60% of doing that as good as you, then you should still do it and lower your burden. So those are some of the things that I wanted to talk to you about. The next thing I wanted to talk to you about is digestion. So my guarantee to you is that more than likely you are not digesting your food at the level that you need to. And that's leading to nutritional deficiencies, and nutritional deficiency is causing impact on your stress response, on your HPA axis, and keeping you in overwhelm and not allowing you to sleep. Why do I say that? Well, because the foods today, they're so minerally deficient. Most of us aren't getting our ample amount of high quality, organic, minerally dense fruit and vegetables over the course of a day. We're just not. And then on top of that, we get food that's rancid. We get food that's hydrogenated. We go to Whole Foods and you get you get overheated vegetable oil that's used better to wax tables than it is to be cooked with. And we have foods that are pesticides and chemicals and bacteria and really bad. And so, you have to make sure that you're going out of your way to get proper foods. And on top of that, nutritional deficiencies. And if you have nutritional deficiencies, I can go right down to immune chronic infections. I'm going to flip over blood sugar for a second. So if you're not getting your ample amount of nutrients on a daily basis, and you're not drinking half your body weight in water in ounces each day, because remember what we said, part of the adrenals are to regulate your fluid balance. And if you're drinking lots of coffee, and for every 8 ounces of coffee that you drink, it's another 32 ounces of water that you need to be repleting. So let's say I'm 160 pounds, I should be drinking 80 ounces of water, and then I have 2 cups of coffee. That's 64. That's 140, and I'm not even getting my 80. And I'm nutritionally deficient. And I'm leaking out peeing out a lot of my electrolytes, and I'm depleted in potassium, I'm depleted in sodium, and I'm depleted in magnesium. How on earth is that going to power your energy systems? And how on earth is that going to have you sleep nicely through the night and feeling recharged? It's just not. And when you're getting poor quality foods, what's happening is you're going to be nutritionally deficient, you're going to be dehydrated. And whoa, how do you like that? Gotta love that. You're going to be nutritionally deficient, you're going to be dehydrated, and then you're going to have chronic infections, because there's research that goes back as early as the 40s that show that you cannot have an infection unless you're nutritionally deficient. Think about that. You cannot have an infection unless you're nutritionally deficient. And if our mineral concentration is terrible, and our food intake is terrible, and our foods are bacteria ridden, and we lose the ability to secrete, digestive secretions because we overcook our foods, then you're going to be nutritionally deficient. If you're nutritionally deficient, you're going to have more than likely an infection. If you have an infection, that's going to cause a free radical buildup, and that's going to cause oxidized cells. And when you have oxidized cells, you're going to have neurotoxicity. If you have neurochemicals or hormones, or you got neurotransmitters, if you have these different communicating nutrients that are overstimulating the cell, then you're going to be like a lot of the people that I work with, where you have panic attacks. You don't want to go to sleep. You don't want to wake up with an adrenaline rush. You don't want to go back to the doctor and be told that there's nothing wrong with you and that you just need to take Prozac. I mean, that's what's going on. And there's a lot of things that you can do for that. The other thing I wanted to talk to you about is circadian biochemistry. I can't believe that almost fell on my head. That was awesome. With circadian biochemistry, I've talked about this. Our body is engineered for a sleep-wake cycle. So if you're not getting sunlight at the most important times of the day, you're not helping your vitamin D, you're not helping your serotonin, and you're not going to sleep very nicely. Or what about if you, I'll answer that as we go on here. Or if you are eating more of your carbs in the morning. We talked to someone today, and she was doing the best she can, but she didn't realize that a banana in the morning is the worst time to have a fruit-based food source, because our body, being based on a circadian rhythm, is more of a carb utilizer in the middle of the day or at nighttime, when your liver is going to go on its third shift and be able to help cleanse and repair and detoxify your cells from the day. You don't want to be eating carbs in the middle of the day or in the breakfast time, because your body's less sensitive to the signals that insulin is signaling. And sure enough, she was high on her A1C and her glucose, and she's in a catabolic state. She would never look like she had a glucose problem or an insulin problem or a A1C problem, because she can't put on weight. But her body is breaking her tissues down, and she needs to understand her circadian biochemistry. The other thing that we tell patients is make sure you're eating more of your proteins in the morning and in the middle of the day, and then you're eating your carbs in the middle of the day and at the end of the day. So those are a couple of the tricks of the trade that I wanted to teach you about. What else do I want to talk to you about? The problem with inflammation and infections, you can test for that by basically looking at your white blood cells. They're going to be suggestive of a chronic immune stress if you're above 8 or if you're below 5. The ranges on the lab are 3.2 to 10.8. So typically we see that gray zone where if you're 9.6, it's lower than the 10.3, it's higher than the 8, and you're told you're normal. Or, if you're 3.9 and it's lower than the 5, but it's not quite as low as the 3.2, you're in that gray zone and you're told there's nothing wrong. That's highly suggestive of an infection. There's also the differential. So looking at lymphocytes If you're above 40%, it should be between 25 to 40. And on blood tests, a lot of the times it shows you there's no established ranges for these white blood cells, which is kind of crazy. So you want to be between 25 to 40 for your lymphocytes. If they're really high, it's suggestive of a viral infection. It's not diagnostic, but it is suggestive of that. If they're really low, then maybe we got a bacteria infection. Neutrophils between 25 to 40 is your lymphocytes. I said 40 to 60. 25 to 40 is your lymphocytes, and then 40 to 60 is your neutrophils. Sorry for the confusion. One more time, neutrophils between 40 to 60. If you're above that, it will probably be suggestive of a bacteria infection. If you're above 25 to 40 for lymphocytes, it's going to be suggestive of a viral infection. Then we can kind of infer potential parasitic infections when your monocytes and your eosinophils are elevated. Again, a better way of doing it is either blood testing and looking for the specific pathogen, or looking at your stool samples, or looking at your complementary white blood cells. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at this and get some good understanding of if you have an infection. Of course, there's other energetic stuff with QRA, with muscle testing. You can test for infections. That's another way that you can go about doing that. So, and then lastly, blood sugar. We really never talked about that. A lot of people will never, will tell me, yeah, I know I'm not eating any gluten. I keep my carbs low. I'm actually going ketogenic. And then I ask them, okay, well, what's your ketone levels? And they say, well, I don't do that. Well, then you're taking a lot of stuff for granted. Or what's your glucose levels? Well, on my last blood test, it was 96. No. What is your real-time glucose levels? Like when you first woke up, or when you feel lightheaded, shaky, and grumpy, or when you have, you crashed after a meal. What's going on there? You don't know because you haven't tested. You haven't done everything. How many grams of carbs are you eating a day? I don't know because I don't want to measure. How much grams of protein are you taking a day? I don't know. How much grams of fat? Listen, if you are suffering with a problem and doctors think that you're crazy and that you spent more money than you want to spend on it, and you're not doing well in your life, and it's a bit of a hassle to do this stuff, then I don't know what to say to you. I mean, the people that I work with, they're the people that are resourceful. They realize that I got to figure this crap out. Or they're the people that are decisive. They know that I don't want to go on another day like this. It's worth it for me to do this. Or they are coachable. They will do what I tell them. They're not just going to say, okay, well, it's kind of this or it's kind of that. I mean, I don't know what I can tell you. It's, it's going to be a kind of result if you don't kind of know what you kind of should know. So anyways, that's what I wanted to talk to you guys about. This is the second time that I've done it through Be Live, and I'm not sure if I'm crazy about it. But let's see what kind of questions that we have here. So we have here, thanks for doing these lives video, Dr. Joel. They are so informative, and I love that you actually personalize them to people watching and asking questions. Oh, I think you asked me that earlier, Danique. If there's any questions, though, I don't know how this Be Live works, but if you have any questions for me, let me know, and I can try to answer for them to you specifically. Otherwise, I just wanted to kind of go over that and wanted to tell you, look, you probably haven't tried everything. There are a lot of things that you could be doing that don't cost money. Coming down to understanding, what are your life loads? What are all your stressors, and reducing those as much as you possibly can, including Wi-Fi and cell phones and blue lights hitting your eyes. Looking at the role of digestion, and are you really eating high quality foods with high quality bioflavonoids and colorful antioxidants? And are you eating too much protein, too much carbs, and not enough healthy fats? Are you actually controlling your blood sugar and seeing how much carbs, proteins, and fats that you're eating? Do you have a nutritional deficiency and have probably a chronic infection that's driving your inflammation and your neurotoxicity that's not allowing you to sleep? Are you working with the biochemistry of your body and the circadian rhythm to be able to maximize your healing recovery? So that's what I do with you guys. And if you're interested in me troubleshooting these things with you and seeing where you are with your health, what's working, what's not working, but most importantly, where you want to be. And if I feel I can help you, I'll tell you exactly what you need to be doing. If I feel I can't, I'll tell you that too. I'll leave the link to my schedule in this file here so that you can figure this out, and hopefully I can help you. Sorry, I don't know where that question went. I saw a question. Okay, so I don't know where that question went. I'm so sorry. I know there's probably a way to see where your questions are, and I don't know where they are. So I apologize about that. Okay, here it is. It says, I've been on cortisol for 2 years and just had another saliva test done. My cortisol is still depressed when I wake up, but then after my first dose, it goes up a little bit too high. Anything I can try to up my cortisol before I rise? I struggle in the morning and always very sluggish. So I would say this, number one, is you're looking at your cortisol with a saliva test. That's not reflective of your total cortisol levels. It's reflective of 5% of your total cortisol levels. So it correlates well with your cortisol levels. But if you've been on hydrocortisone for a while, you probably have suppressed your adrenals from producing the cortisol levels on their own. Plus, I'd want to know, why'd you go on the hydrocortisone in the first place? Did you have a low-grade infection? Did you have a major trauma? Did you have a musculoskeletal injury or a surgery? How's your gut health? Are you stabilizing your glucose? Do you have any chemical toxins or exposures? Is there mold in your house? What's your relationships like? Because you're not going to out hydrocortisone those. You're not. So I would want to know about that first, because that didn't change just because you went on the hydrocortisone. But I would want to know, what is your blood values of your cortisol? What are your urine values of your cortisol? And what are your saliva values? Then I can really get a good picture. Hey, you really are low with your total cortisol, or you're excreting a lot of it, or your free fraction is low, but you're converting a lot, you're making a lot of cortisol, you're just not able to utilize it. And then try to fill in those gaps. But some of the things that you could be doing is, licorice root shows really nicely for making more cortisol. The cortisol awakening response is where you do, say, 30 seconds of squats and then a minute rest, 30 seconds of squats, a minute rest, 30 seconds of squats, a minute rest within the first 15 minutes of waking up. And that will get your cortisol rising quite nicely. And that's called jump starting the car, meaning you're jump starting your cortisol awakening response and getting that cortisol level to go higher so that it sets the tone for the rest of the day. And then I think that would be some of the answers that I would give to you. And if there's no other questions, then I'm just going to leave it like that for tonight. Again, my name is Dr. Joel Rosen. I call myself the Adrenal Fatigue Recovery Ninja, and I look forward to ending your adrenal fatigue nightmare. Thank you so much.